I'm Kat Valyi, and I'm here with Sue Chamberlaine, and today we have a great guest. As you know, we are speaking to women in healthcare, but this information is really for anyone in healthcare and anyone with a growth mindset and wants to learn how to expand and change their mindset. And we have a great person that's going to be talking about this. It's Madelaine Claire Weiss. Madelaine, thank you for joining us today. We're so excited for you to be here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and we'll start from there.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Let's see about myself. Right out of the gate, I became certified in medical technology through a program at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate Hospital, and went on from there to work in clinical chemistry laboratories. I was just boasting in the green room about I worked on the first 12-channel auto analyzer. God knows how many channels they're up to. Now I work for the USDA Biological Control Lab, Drexel University's Cardiac Catheter Research Lab, and was pretty much very involved with, let's just say, blood and bugs. Other things too, but let's just say blood and bugs. But because of my earlier history, there was always this call to the people. So I'd like to call myself the queen of pivoting. I pivoted over time and became a licensed independent clinical social worker, trained as a psychotherapist through the Harvard system, and then found myself at some point running a business, realizing I had no idea anything about business. So I went to business school and got an MBA. And after that, I decided that there was something about coaching I kept hearing about that really appealed to me more than the traditional psychodynamic psychotherapy. So I got board certified in executive career and life coaching. And here I am doing work I love and just feel blessed every day to be able to do.
So it seems that your passion is in mindset and reducing stress and getting ahead, and I believe with working towards great.
Yes.
So what are your passions? What are the things that you want people to know?
So let me tell you a little story about how I became so impassioned about all of this. When I was 15 years old, my father died suddenly of a stroke at 42 years old. And because I think people didn't really talk to their children about their feelings and how they're taking in the world and all the kinds of things that I'm happy to say there is more of today, but that didn't happen in any case in my part of the world back then. And so because I was kind of a mouthy, well, I still am kind of a mouthy, but I certainly was back then. I was grounded at the time, and I was grounded a lot. So that when my father died so suddenly, I went for a good long time thinking my daddy died of me, until this one day with my mother at the cemetery where I broke down with her about how all my fault it was. And she said, "No, honey, it wasn't you, it was work." So no surprise, through all that pivoting with the pull to the people, I now help busy professionals, executives, entrepreneurs find, this is the elevator pitch coming, find more hours in the day, more clarity and focus, more energy and peace of mind, more freedom and fulfillment, maintaining high performance in all areas of their lives, because everything's connected to everything else, maintaining that high performance, which we all want, right? Without burning out. So that's what I'm passionate about, is trying to help people get from where they are, which might be kind of meh or worse to the really great lives they all want. And I know they can have. So.
Yeah, I do love that saying where get help people get to where they are to get to a great life, and providing the steps to get there, because I know you have a book. It's right behind you.
Ta-da!
Oh, I don't have to squint. It's right there, Getting to Great. And I know that your great, each letter is broken down into a specific step. One of the things you said was that you help people get more hours in a day, which is interesting because there's only a certain amount of hours you can absolutely have. So you're not getting, I guess, I'd love for you to explain that. You don't get more hours, you do something differently to make the most of the hours.
Yeah, but it feels like, I
Yeah.
know this because I feel it. It begins to feel like there's plenty enough time for everything when we stop wasting time. And, the mind wanders 70% of the time, they say. And a lot of that is into past regrets and future worries. So if you think, oh my God, I am wringing my hands. Well, I'm not, of course, because I do all these practices that are in the book and so on, but that people are wringing their hands 70% of the time over woulda, coulda, shoulda, and oh my God, what if? If we capture all of that time and put it to good use about things that are real and really matter to us, then we feel like, and actually do have, more hours in the day to work with.
Awesome.
or to play with, or to enjoy our relationships with. There really are more hours in the day for all of that, for all of life's pleasures and nourishment and satisfactions and blah, blah, blah.
So tell me about the book, about Getting to Great.
Yeah.
G.R.E.A.T. G.R.E.
G.R.E.
Yes.
You
I
can
love
only imagine how thrilled I was when I realized that this 5-step process was going to break down into that word.
As a marketer, I approve.
Thank you. That actually means a lot. So thank you for that. Yeah. So I re-engineered. I sort of scanned my clients and I thought, God, these people are all doing so great. And what's interesting is that my background is so diverse. I even have studied Advaita Vedanta, pre-Hindu tradition, for somewhere between 20 and 25 years, believe it or not. In fact, the first speaking training that I did was at Harvard Medical School, and it was Mastering Your Mind. And I was employing all of those concepts, like we cannot be that which we observe, otherwise who then is doing the observing, because we get so overly identified with our bodies and who we are in this moment. It's not who we, well, anyway. So I just thought that I wanted to put in simple talk and bring to the people so that they could all benefit by it. And then I laid out all these clients and I thought, okay, I don't even know which tool I'm pulling out of my bag when. It could be evolutionary psychology or management theory or Advaita Vedanta, pre-Hindu tradition, or this very fine psychodynamic psychotherapy education that I had. But also, all these people were so different one from the other in age, ethnicity, gender, occupation. I thought, what is working here? I'm having a good time. They're doing and feeling better, but what is it? And I decided that apart from any and all of that diversity in me and them, there was this process. I was looking for common denominators and I found it. There was this 5-step process that it seemed everyone went through to get from where they were to these much bettered lives. So
you're saying that even if you're using a different method, the underpinning of it is this 5-step process.
and the underpinning of that, I peeled the onion even further. The underpinning of that, hear me now, is a disciplined mind.
So how does one get a disciplined mind? Because that's so broad to me, because it's I guess I should say there's a lot of ways to get there, right? So how would you, if you had to give someone a 30-second
I have
overview
one.
of, all right, how do you get that
Well,
disciplined mind?
I have a 30-second mindset reset that I would like to share with you before we close.
Awesome.
If you would like me to tell you what the 5-step process is in shorthand,
Sure.
for the sake of time, I can do that. And then we can morph over to, that sounds great, but if you need a disciplined mind to accomplish all of that, then how do you get there? Which really is the bottom line. So
Right.
G.R.E.A.T. G is for grounding. And it's grounding in the belief that you really can have a great life. This is mindset, right? First, we have to believe that we really can have a great life and that we have everything we need inside of us to get us there. Now, when people come to work with me at first, they're like, one woman had back pain and she thought there might be something. So she's a wonderful story, but she thought there might be something psychological to it. It didn't. She was someone who was on the East Coast in space and defense and bored out of her mind, wishing she was on the West Coast in startup.
Mhm.
She was someone who thought that she could never have a relationship because she was much too independent for that. So she couldn't possibly even live with another person. And I want you to know, just as an example, that she is now on the West Coast and she is in a finance startup. She has met and married and lives with a wonderful, wonderful man. And let me see what the date is. She's delivering next week. She's due to deliver her baby next week. So this is really quite a transformation story from someone who didn't imagine any of this was possible. So I think it's my job, because I know things are possible for people that they haven't even dreamed about yet, to hold that space until they can step into it and run with it, own it, run with it on their own. So that's the G. The first line of the book is, a great life depends on a great fit between who we are and the environments in which we work and live. I thought that was brilliant when I made it up, and I thought, oh, wait a minute. Darwin said that many, many years ago. You didn't make that up, honey. Okay. But it's as true today as it's ever been. And what's great today, great, I use that word a lot now. What's great today is that we have this very highly developed prefrontal cortex that helps us not only to adapt or die to the situations that we're in, but to be able to choose them and to be able to create them. Now, if a great life depends on the great fit between who we are and the environments in which, you need to know who you are. So the R is for recognizing who we are. And that's part of the process that my clients and I go through together, figuring out what really matters for them, not because someone else said it should, or not even because they always told themselves that it should, but what deep down is really in their core values, interests, abilities, and so on. And then once they have that under their belt, the E, G.R.E., is we go exploring out there in the world. I remember when I was growing up, little girls were either going to be nurses or teachers. It was really that confined,
Mhm.
you know? And now, like, the whole world is open to all of us. And so to explore things we may have thought of and gone, yeah, I can't do that, or things we may have never even thought of, and the sky's the limit, but it's kind of dreamland, and we can't stay in dreamland. So A is for action. G.R.E.A. is for action. William James said, action doesn't guarantee happiness, but there is no happiness without action. So we have to do something. And I advise the Goldilocks principle, which is not so big. Every week at the end of a session, we will do some action steps that the client comes up with that are consistent with what we just discovered. And the steps are not so big that they get overwhelmed and shut down. The brain will shut down and nothing happens, but not so small that we're bored. The tree wants to grow, the bird wants to fly, and so do we. The brain wants to seize, hey, something's happening here. Let's have some more. So not too big, not too small, but just right. And then the T, do you want to guess or do you want me to tell you?
Tell us, because I actually, yeah, go ahead.
So the T, and we can use the T a couple different ways. The T is for tackling or taming or tending the normal, natural, inherent, predictable resistance to change.
Right.
In fact, sometimes I like to ask people at the beginning of our work together, when the resistance happens the way it does, what's it going to look like on you? How will we know it so that you're in a position, you, the client, and me too, in this process with you to say, there it is. Because the human brain is designed to prefer, even though it does not like boredom, it also likes to be safe.
Right.
It wants a feeling of safety. And that's pretty much what the ego is trying to keep you safe. So whatever works for the client, to think of it as tackling it or tending it or whatever, so that I'll tell you what my preference is. My preference is to take it by the hand and say, thank you for everything you've always done for me. I know you've always been trying to help me and only trying to help me, but I got an idea and I want you to come with me. So I'm the adult in the room now. Come with me. And then together.
So thankful. So still a T. So it's still thankful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I hadn't thought of it that. Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you, does this work better for someone that's younger? Because these are some changes, right? The grounding and recognizing and exploring and action. Does this happen over a long time, or can it be condensed, or or do you have to, is there an age? Because when Sue and I talk to women that are in the healthcare space many times, and they're kind of especially in their 40s and 50s and rising, and this would be great information, but will this work on folks that are rising in age as opposed to younger folks?
I think of this as a repeatable process that can be used over and over and over again throughout life. So we might find ourselves, and I'm thinking of two opposing situations. There was a doctor that I was working with who did not like the American healthcare system. So who he was out of alignment, did not have a great fit with the environment in which he worked and lived. I always like to tell my clients that it helps to turn a complaint into a request. He did not make a request because he had whined and complained enough to his employers. So he didn't make the request to them. He made the request to his wife. And the request was, how would you like to pick up our family and both of us find new work in New Zealand, where I think I would, and they had kids. So, they were going to take the kids too. She was thrilled and off they went. So his idea was to find an environment that was more conducive to the nourishment and the thriving of their little family. I also have a woman who's a vice president of a bank who didn't change a thing on the outside. It all happened on the inside. And there was one thing in her life that wasn't exactly the way she wanted it to be, and it was sort of polluting and contaminating everything else. And she told me about a week or two ago, I really think I'm on a good, what did she call it, a glide path now. She said, I realized 85% of my life is really just fine. And the other 15% is nothing that I can't handle. And it was all I could do to keep from crying. It seemed to me like such a wonderful place for her to have such a groove to be in. Now, for all of these people, to your question, Kat, things are going to happen down the line. And we're all going to be reassessing our fit with the environment in which we work and live again and again and again. I certainly did in my life. That story I told you about, and then I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this, because as I grew, the environments didn't fit as well anymore, or as the environment changed. I was on the cutting edge. I was an administrative director treasurer when managed care of a group mental health practice, when managed care hit way back then. And it changed everything.
Yeah.
So the environment changed out from under our feet, and it changed everything for each and every one of us. But sometimes we just grow. Yeah. And when we grow, what we arranged for our previous self is not quite as suitable. So to your question about age, I love getting in early. Like with my 24-year-old Fulbright scholar, and the world is his oyster. And he's working on how to, he would like to have a family someday. He's got the whole graduate school and building his company. He's got that all set, but he's a little worried that he's not doing that well with the women in his life because he's so focused on himself. So it is my pleasure to get out in front of that with him so that he can build a happy, healthy family. So I love getting in there early with people, but have also clients who are on their current iteration, and there'll be another one and another one. So this process of assessing your alignment, who you are in the environments that you're in, is a repeatable tool in your toolkit.
It really caught me when you were talking about the woman who needed to make the change on the inside. That brought several times where I've had people that I'm working with, they wanted, a lot of them have children and parents that they're taking care of. So their personal life is very, very hectic. They're trying to deal with, exactly. They're trying to deal with the work and what's going on there. And as I tell many people, it's called a job because if you had your choice, you may or may not be in that specific job, but you may want to be home with your kids, but you do need to make money. So there is some of that. So the point is, since you have to make money for whatever purposes, do it in a way that you're going to enjoy it as much as you can. But what I found is many people that just, they're not happy that they have to be there and they let it consume them. Whereas if, and I've had that personally too. I've had times where I'm just not happy where I am and I'm not exactly sure why. And when I
So
look, it's a bunch of things.
there is a client that really fits that description. The woman I worked with was a lawyer in healthcare regulation, as it turns out.
Oh, that's fun.
And it was so, right? It's so tedious, not particularly uplifting. But when we explored what really mattered to her, and she realized, this is also a great story, that it was her family who mattered more than anything in the world. And that, in fact, it was okay for her to appreciate this work for the income that went directly to the betterment and the enjoyment and the entertainment and all of that with her family. A lot of times stuff will happen with my clients that I only find out about afterwards, that like, because it wasn't my idea, but as they grew, it came. In her case, this woman who had no energy, she came to me like dragging. She was so depleted. All of a sudden, like I said, new energy, all of a sudden has hours in the day and energy for a side hustle. And not only that, when she realized how much the family meant to her, she included the husband and the teenage son, and she put this side hustle together. And I was just like, wow, where did you get the energy for all of that? A tip is 3 simple words, and they are, I get to, instead of I have to.
Yep.
Now, I have a natural I get to, because when my father died, I was worried about my mother financially. And I tried to get a job at 15 years old. I went in every storefront on like Jenkintown Avenue or whatever it was, and no one would hire me. So my mind told itself and me a little story about there must be something wrong with me. Then I wondered if my mother went in and told everyone not to hire. Like, I had no idea. The mind doesn't like not knowing, so it makes up stories and then it thinks they're true.
Oh,
I found out, much later that Pennsylvania had laws and didn't hire 15-year-olds, but there lives inside of me, I get to work. Work is never a have to for me, because I had this early experience when I couldn't. But there was a couple real quick where they were trying to divide up. I worked with the couple as a couple, and they were trying to divide up who was going to do what about the kids. And when I introduced I get to for the husband when he gets to feed his son, of course they laugh. He's like, oh yeah, I get to get up at 5 a.m. because he's up and he wants me. Oh yeah, that's right. But there was something about the conversion where he realized he's a dad, and what a privilege that is, that not everyone has. And he chose that, and he's blessed in that. And it actually really helped their marriage and helped him to realize that these are privileges that he has. I get to, not I have to. So those 3 little words.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's the attitude of gratitude that really can change how you even view the world, you know what I mean? Because you can see there could be a problem, air quotes, right, in front of you, but if it just becomes an opportunity for something new, or an opportunity for it's funny. My mom, when my dad passed, she was very depressed, and she was starting to live with my sister, and I would tell her, you've done so many things, because she started to boil down her life into a moment of, oh, my husband's gone, I'm sad, look at me, I'm not working. And then I said, well, you have 4 daughters, They're all independent. They all make money. I said, we all did this because we watched you. I said, you've got grandchildren. You've got a great place to live. Anywhere you want to go, one of us are going to drive you. We love being with you. And she couldn't, I know, she couldn't quite grasp it. So I made a list, I took a poster board and I wrote a list of all the good that she affected. And I put it on her door right in front of her bed. And I said, just look at it. Remind, yourself that you have done so much and there's so much good. You got 3 great grandchildren. They love you. And I said, you forget. Some people don't have it. Some people have nothing. Some people, I said, you have so much. And so I always remind her, did you read your poster? Did you read your poster? And she's like, yes.
Yeah.
And it's helped. I mean, it's not magic, but it's just.
I want to throw in there, thank you for that. That was really beautiful. And I want to add to it the idea that what we resist persists. So it's not that she or we or anybody doesn't have those thoughts, the kind of down thoughts. We let them come because they come. They just do.
They do.
And then we let them go. And I like to call it, to use a medical term, grafting. So if you can graft the alternative view that you present lovingly to your mom, when the unhappiness about her loss comes to mind, if she can graft right onto that, so neurons that fire together or wire together so that they come together. That's another little tip.
So if you had one tip to share, right? Because I love your the process of the G.R.E.A.T process. I'm a very process person. I created a process for my marketing and I market it and I talk about it. And I love processes because I think it helps you kind of step through so you can see a beginning, middle, and end. But if you had to give someone one small step that they could walk away with besides the process of G.R.E.A.T, what would you say to someone who is struggling in business and saying, hey, I want to excel and I don't know if it's because I'm seeing things a certain way or things are happening to me. What small nugget of advice might you share with them?
I'm going to do 2.
Okay, you can have 2.
Okay. When I talked about the G and I said we have everything inside us that we need, that person that you were imagining just now has everything she needs inside of her. The problem is, God, it's noisy in there and we can't hear it.
Okay.
So this thing I call power breathing. And on my website at MadelaineWeiss.com, if you scroll down about halfway, there's a box that says complementary mind management exercises. There are lots of great exercises in there. This one is called power breathing. It's that 30-second mindset reset. There's also one there called the breathing room, which is a fuller meditation. Each of these is a 1-sheet, very simple instruction on how to begin to discipline and quiet the mind for all those benefits we talked about before, but most especially to be able to hear your wisdom. You kind of know what to do. It's in there. We just can't hear it. And the quieter, and I speak from experience, my decisions tend to come very easily to me, the quieter and quieter my mind is. And I'm happy about that because it frees up more hours in the day and blah, blah, blah. The second thing that I want to add is the concept of good company. we didn't get to choose exactly the world we were, let's say, born into, but we certainly do get to make a lot of choices about who gets into the world that we live in now. And good company is not just about people. It's about the food we eat, the wine we drink, the books we read, the music we listen to. Very importantly, good company is about the thoughts in our own head. There are gazillions of those a day, and they're not all good company. So beginning to see what kinds of thoughts come to mind. And then, of course, the people like you, wonderful people that we engage in our lives, that we do get to pick a lot of those, and we should pick those carefully for the nourishment that we can provide to them and they to us.
Madelaine, that was wonderful.
That was.
Can we squeeze in our 30-second? You
Yes.
said you're gonna, let's do that, because I think we have 30 seconds before we have to sign off.
Perfect.
So awesome.
Okay, so sit up nice and straight in your chair, feet flat on the ground. You can close your eyes like I am, or simply gaze downward. And what's distinctive about this breathing is that instead of filling our lungs, we're going to be filling our bellies. And this is really important because it stimulates the polyvagal nerve to breathe like that. And that runs throughout our body and calms our body and our minds and brings all that clarity of focus that we're talking about. So when we breathe in, our belly is going to go out. We're filling the belly like a balloon. And when we breathe out, the belly comes all the way back in, and the shoulders shouldn't even move. So again, it's belly out on the in-breath and belly in on the out-breath. It's going to be in through the nose and out through the nose. And let's take our 3 luxurious breaths now. You may begin. And when you're finished, come back into the room.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. This was an awesome conversation. We got a lot of great nuggets. People, get her book, Madalaine's book called Getting to Great. There's some really good nuggets in there. It's also, you can check out her website, which she mentioned, and we'll put in the notes of the description. And thank you again so much for your time. We appreciate you. And Sue, any last thoughts before we head out?
No, except where can people purchase your book?
There you go.
Okay. If you go to my website, you will see right at the top, well, all my social media links are there, but also right there are 3 buttons. One of them is for a complimentary strategy session with me, and I invite all your listeners to partake of that if they care to. The other button will take you right to the book, and the other button will take you to the online courses. There's a tab that says blogs. So there are the complimentary blogs that come out every week. I usually like to find a piece of science that I want to learn more about that I think might be fun or helpful. So you saw some of those, like why we're writing to each other kind of a thing. Yeah. And then, yeah.
Okay, and hold up your book one more time as we're heading out. Hold up your book so people can see what it looks like one more time.
And it's MadelaineWeiss.com, and there's the spelling. Madelaine Weiss is all one word.
All right.
And it's the 5-step strategy for work and life filled with science and stories.
So, and I will say, I have read several of the blogs as well and highly recommend. I love the science and that type of thing that's behind it to help understand. So those of us in healthcare tend to have science brains where we want to see the facts and the details and not just the here's what it is. So they're wonderful. I highly recommend. So thank you again for sharing with us and
It was fun. Thank you, Kat and Sue, for having me.
Thank you so much.